Psychology facts that explain women's emotions. Women's emotions are often described as complex, but psychology shows they are deeply logical, adaptive, and rooted in both biology and lived experience. Emotions in women tend to be highly responsive to context because the female brain is strongly wired for emotional awareness and social sensitivity. This does not mean women feel more than men. Rather, they process emotions with greater depth and nuance. From an early age, women are encouraged to notice subtle emotional cues in others, such as tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. Over time, this constant emotional attunement strengthens neural pathways related to empathy and emotional regulation. As a result, women often experience emotions as layered experiences, where a single situation can trigger multiple feelings at once, such as happiness mixed with worry or love mixed with fear. Psychology explains that this emotional richness is not a weakness but an evolutionary strength that helped women maintain social bonds, protect relationships, and ensure group survival. Hormones play a significant role in shaping women's emotional experiences, but they do not control them in a simplistic way. Fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone influence mood, energy levels, and emotional sensitivity, especially across the menstrual cycle. Estrogen tends to enhance emotional expressiveness and social connection, while progesterone can increase the need for comfort and security. Psychology emphasizes that these hormonal shifts amplify existing emotions rather than create irrational ones. When a woman feels more emotionally sensitive at certain times, it often reflects a heightened awareness of her internal and external world. This sensitivity allows women to pick up on emotional changes in relationships and environments that others may overlook. Rather than being unpredictable, women's emotions often follow consistent internal patterns that make sense when viewed through the lens of biological rhythms and psychological needs. Another important psychological fact is that women often process emotions through reflection and verbal expression. Talking about feelings is not simply a habit. It is a psychological strategy for emotional regulation. Research shows that verbalizing emotions helps reduce emotional intensity and increases clarity. When women share their feelings, they are often seeking understanding rather than solutions. This explains why women may feel unheard when their emotions are quickly fixed instead of acknowledged. Emotional validation plays a crucial role in women's well-being because it reassures them that their experiences are real and meaningful. When emotions are validated, stress hormones decrease and feelings of connection increase. This is why women tend to feel emotionally closer to people who listen without judgment and respond with empathy. Women's emotions are also closely tied to relationships because identity and connection are deeply intertwined in female psychological development. Many women define emotional safety through relational harmony, which means conflict can feel particularly distressing. Psychology explains that when relationships are threatened, women may experience anxiety, sadness, or self-doubt more intensely. This does not mean women are dependent. Rather, they are highly relational. Emotional well-being is often connected to the quality of bonds with family, friends, and partners. When these bonds are strong, women tend to thrive emotionally. When they are unstable or emotionally unsafe, women may internalize stress, leading to overthinking or emotional exhaustion. This relational focus explains why women often invest emotionally and why. Women also tend to remember emotional experiences with greater detail, which influences how they react in the present. Psychological studies suggest that emotionally charged memories are stored more vividly in women's brains. This means past emotional wounds or joys can strongly shape current emotional responses. If a woman reacts strongly to a situation, it is often because her mind has connected it to earlier experiences that carried emotional significance. This memory-emotion link allows women to learn from emotional history and avoid repeating painful patterns. However, it can also make emotional healing take longer, as unresolved feelings may resurface until they are fully processed and understood. Stress affects women emotionally in unique ways. Under pressure, many women tend to internalize stress, leading to emotional overload rather than outward aggression. Psychology shows that women are more likely to experience stress-related emotions such as worry, guilt, and emotional fatigue. This is because women often carry emotional responsibility not only for themselves but also for others. They may feel responsible for maintaining emotional balance in families, workplaces, and friendships. Over time, this emotional labor can lead to burnout if not recognized or shared. Understanding this psychological fact helps explain why women may appear calm on the outside while feeling emotionally overwhelmed inside. Another powerful psychological insight is that women's emotions are closely linked to intuition. Emotional intuition allows women to sense when something is wrong, even without clear evidence. This intuitive emotional awareness comes from the brain's ability to rapidly process emotional and social information. Women often trust their gut feelings because these emotions are based on subtle cues accumulated over time. Psychology suggests that intuition is not mystical but a form of fast emotional intelligence. When women feel uneasy or emotionally alert, it is often their brain recognizing patterns before conscious thought catches up. Finally, women's emotions are deeply connected to meaning and purpose. Women tend to experience stronger emotional fulfillment when they feel valued, understood, and aligned with their inner values. Emotional pain often arises when women feel unseen, dismissed, or disconnected from what matters to them. Psychology explains that emotional expression in women is often a call for authenticity rather than drama. When women are emotionally supported, respected, and allowed to express their true selves, their emotional world becomes a source of strength, creativity, and resilience. Understanding women's emotions through psychology reveals not confusion, but depth, intelligence, and a profound capacity for connection. One powerful psychological truth about women's emotions is that they are strongly influenced by perceived fairness and respect. When a woman feels valued and treated fairly, her emotional state becomes more stable and positive. However, when she senses injustice, dismissal, or lack of appreciation, her emotional response can be intense. This reaction is not about being overly sensitive. It is about the human need for dignity. Studies in social psychology show that women are highly responsive to relational equity, meaning they monitor how much effort, care, and commitment are being exchanged in relationships. If there is imbalance, emotional discomfort naturally follows. This explains why women may become upset over patterns that others consider small. They are often reacting not to the single event, but to what it represents in terms of respect and emotional investment. Women also tend to experience emotions in a more interconnected way. Instead of separating feelings into isolated categories, emotions often blend together. Happiness may carry concern for loved ones, excitement may include anxiety about outcomes, and love may include fear of loss. This emotional blending comes from the brain's strong communication between areas responsible for memory, empathy, and emotional processing. Psychology shows that this interconnected style allows women to anticipate consequences and think relationally. While this can sometimes lead to overthinking, it also enables deeper emotional insight. Women are often able to understand complex emotional situations because they naturally consider multiple emotional layers at once. Another key psychological fact is that women are more likely to internalize criticism. When faced with negative feedback or conflict, many women instinctively reflect inward and ask themselves what they could have done differently. This habit develops from social conditioning that encourages women to maintain harmony. While self-reflection can be a strength, excessive self-blame can lead to anxiety and lowered self-esteem. Understanding this pattern helps explain why some women may appear deeply affected by comments that others might brush off. Their minds are processing not only the words spoken but also the relational meaning behind them. Emotional recovery, therefore, often requires reassurance, clarity, and a sense of emotional security. Attachment psychology also plays a major role in shaping women's emotional responses. Early experiences with caregivers influence how safe women feel in adult relationships. If a woman grew up in a secure environment, she is more likely to express emotions openly and trust others with her feelings. However, if her early experiences involved inconsistency or emotional neglect, she may become more anxious or guarded. This does not mean she is unstable. It means her emotional system learned to stay alert for potential loss. In romantic relationships especially, Women may show heightened emotional reactions when they sense distance or withdrawal. These reactions often stem from a deep need for connection and reassurance rather than from irrational fear. Women's empathy is another psychological factor that intensifies emotional experiences. Many women naturally mirror the emotions of people around them. If someone they care about is stressed, sad, or anxious, they may begin to feel those emotions themselves. This emotional contagion happens because of strong empathic neural responses. While empathy strengthens relationships, it can also lead to emotional overload if boundaries are not maintained. Women who constantly absorb others' emotions may feel drained without understanding why. Learning to separate personal emotions from others' feelings is an important psychological skill for emotional balance. Psychology also reveals that women's anger is often misunderstood. Instead of expressing anger directly, many women transform it into sadness or silence. Social expectations sometimes discourage women from showing open anger, labeling it as inappropriate. As a result, anger may be internalized or expressed indirectly. However, anger in women usually signals unmet needs, crossed boundaries, or emotional hurt. When understood correctly, anger becomes a powerful indicator of self-respect and personal limits. Women who learn to express anger in healthy ways often experience stronger confidence and emotional clarity. Another important emotional pattern is rumination. Women are statistically more likely to replay emotional events in their minds, analyzing conversations and outcomes repeatedly. This tendency can deepen understanding but can also prolong emotional pain. Rumination happens because women often seek meaning in emotional experiences. They want to understand why something happened and what it implies about the relationship. When resolution is unclear, the mind keeps searching for answers. Supportive dialogue and emotional reassurance can help break this cycle by providing clarity and closure. Finally, women's emotions are deeply tied to authenticity. When women feel they must suppress their true feelings to be accepted, emotional tension builds. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They resurface through stress, mood changes, or emotional distance. Psychology shows that emotional expression is essential for mental health. Women who are encouraged to express themselves honestly tend to experience stronger self-worth and resilience. Their emotions become tools for communication rather than sources of confusion. Understanding these psychological truths reveals that women's emotions are structured, meaningful, and deeply intelligent. They reflect connection, identity, memory, and self-respect, forming a powerful emotional system designed not for weakness, but for depth and strength.